processing the file, and it was processing the file for an entire day, and probably it's still doing it now. So there's no way of getting that back.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with YouTube, but it might be a link. Just a lot of people using all their resources. Is that better?
Yeah. Now it's quite loud.
Okay. Yeah, the input goes from like completely impossible to hear to really loud. You know, it's like a log scale.
Yeah.
So is that good now?
It's good now, yeah. Well, I think we are live already. And as usual, I would start the Scrum like, what did you do? What are you going to do? And where are the blockers? Yeah, well, let's start with that. Who wants to start? Do you want to start, Matt?
Okay. So I looked at the issue with the being fair on how the averages were presented and the donations to different broadcasts. I don't have all the terminology down really well, so just bear with me with that. So I didn't really understand the calculations all that well, and I made some spreadsheets to try and figure out what's going on and how the different components work together. And I just was reading through files, looking at the SQL statements, things like that. And there were some features which you made, and I tried doing like the VDD cycle and getting something to be green.
So the problems were especially just to get your head around the computations and stuff, and that was basically a blocker, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was last 2 weeks, I think, or last week, I was working on the same issue as well, and I realized how kind of complex this issue is already, and so I totally understand the blockers, and I added a lot of commits, as you already saw. And I think the issue is now almost ready to merge. Actually, I would like to show it to you just now. What I'm going to do, so this is basically done. What I'm going to do is I talked to Sam, and he advised me not to onboard people with entire features. So to learn a little, it's probably easier to do some kind of refactoring. Okay, and yes, I think that's a good idea. So I'm going to find a particular issue where we can refactor the current code without changing anything, just to give you a little bit a feeling how to.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so no blockers so far except the understated or underestimated complexity. This is pretty much it. So I would just, for example, show you the code, how it is running right now. Have you been able to? So this is the usual. This would be the usual daily Scrum thing. Have you been able to run the full stack tests actually?
Yes, I set up a VirtualBox VM and I ran all the full stack tests.
So what operating system are you on?
I mirrored Cloud9 Ubuntu 14.4, so it's basically the same setup. The only things I had to do was install Postgres and add a user to Postgres. And there's in Chrome driver I had to install too.
Yeah. Wow. What is your operating system you're on your local machine?
On my local machine, it's Mac OS Sierra.
I think that should be okay. You should be good to go. You can try to install it locally on your machine. So all you need is Node and Ruby. And probably sometimes it's a little bit a hassle to get Postgres running on Mac OS 10. Have you ever tried to run a Rails application on Mac OS 10 natively?
Yeah, I done that too.
And
it worked fine. I found a package for Postgres, like a containerized binary.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Basically, they compile the entire binary and just put it in a folder, and then the path is just bound to that folder. So it just runs out of that little thing.
Yeah, so that could be, for example, one thing. Just try to run it locally. I mean, if Cloud9 is fine for you, that's fine for me as well.
I'm preferring Cloud9. Makes it a lot easier to avoid conflicts with dependencies and
fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a valid, it's a valid scenario. And full stack test was no problem. So you were able to run the full stack browser tests in this different environment, and that was looking fine.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I have never seen how, I've never tried it this Cloud9. I was just curious how it looks like. You have the browser inside the browser. Anyhow.
Cloud9 doesn't work so well for doing any sort of serious processing. They don't really give you any CPU power. So, it's just kind of a total fail for that sort of thing. Okay,
so then I would say let's do the rest of the pull request. I will just quickly give you a view on, I will share my screen, and you can see how the current behavior looks like on the production data. I don't think you have access to the production data, right?
Right.
How does it look like if you just run the seeds? Probably there's not much interesting there. Is there?
There is a few things, but not really.
I mean, this is another thing we can also do is to create more interesting seed data. I don't want to use production data because it's user data, and I think I'm not supposed to put that on the internet. But we can just create some kind of fake data just to have something, how to get a feeling for it, how it looks like, and see how the different charts are changing depending on the data.
Okay.
I mean, you could, for example...
if you could capture the distribution and then just generate random anonymous data that has the same distribution.
Probably. We could also just copy-paste the seed data or the data setup from certain test files. That should also be an option.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share my screen now, if that's okay for you. And failed to install desktop sharing extension. Oh, wow. Aha. Okay, at least I'm allowed to share my browser. Probably you're not able to see my terminal, is that right?
That's right.
You just see the browser.
The browser now.
Which is fair. So I'm on localhost 4200 right now. We have 573 users by now. And so the visualization looks like this. And actually, I would like to get your feedback on it. Probably you haven't never seen this before, right? This current version here.
No, I haven't seen it with the green.
Yeah. So I did several things. So first of all, the expected value is computed in a different way. That was the original feature. And then it struck me that we have this children's broadcast TV channel, for example, which is performing now really, really bad. And I think this is because we had the broadcast of this TV channel from the very beginning in our database. So many people have seen those broadcasts and did not support them. Which kind of, well, it is kind of, it makes sense in a way, even though I find it surprising that Kiga is now having such a high expected value here, right?
Right.
So I also put in this green spline here, which is the number of broadcasts in total. And obviously, this number of broadcasts correlates with both the expected value and the actual amount. So if people add new broadcasts to the database, the green spline will extend. So this is, for example, interesting, 48 euro of broadcast. Okay, that's a bug. Anyhow, I have to fix that. The formatting of numbers is not right. Yeah, but we have 48 broadcasts for this channel here, and 76. So we see the broadcasts on this y-axis here, and the amounts on the other axis. And I decided to use a spline in order to make the difference, make a visual difference. So the bars here, they are comparable, but they are not comparable directly to this green spline because it's just another unit.
Can you summarize again what the different bars mean?
So this is the number of broadcasts. The green spline refers to this axis up here. Do you see my mouse actually?
It's when you hover over an item and there's a tooltip. It shows
okay. But you can't see my mouse. Okay, maybe I just make it a little bit bigger. Too bad. The chart doesn't scale, which sucks. Okay, if I scale the browser, the chart itself doesn't scale. Sad.
Yeah, that's unexpected.
Okay, so just to summarize it, you see three things. You see the number of broadcasts, you see the expected value, and you see the amount per station, per radio or per TV station. Every broadcast has a certain amount. This is the total of all amounts from all users who voted for that broadcast. And we have this expected amount, which we calculate based on an average and the number of votes a broadcast received already, or the number of impressions. Yeah, thank you, by the way. So you introduced this new term, impression, which is way better, I think. Right? So
right. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So we use just an average and multiply it with the number of impressions, and that's the black bar here. And in order to have something more to compare it, we have the number of broadcasts. So let's say we have a person who's adding 50 per broadcast to a station, then it will take some time until those broadcasts receive the same impressions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And yeah, so this is basically the green spline. And the other thing I did is I splitted these two two data sets into radio and TV stations, as you can see here. Does that make sense? Is it actually correct English? TV station, radio station, or do you say radio channel?
Yeah, that's what we normally would. Well, I guess more often you would say TV channel.
Channel. Okay, maybe I should use another.
Broadcasts.
Yeah.
For local stations, it's normally like news channel, but aside from like local news broadcasts, they have like a brand. So like Cartoon Network is like our cartoon channel. But, so that's kind of how it goes.
Maybe I should. Okay, so I'll keep in mind. First of all, the formatting is not right because we see in the tooltip the number of broadcasts are postfixed with a euro sign, which doesn't make sense at all. It's just a number, and we should use a different name. Channel. Actually, this is also kind of a refactoring because in the database, the model is also named station, and it should be channel then. Okay, so but so far, does it make sense after all? What is your opinion about this? After all, I wasn't quite sure when I was doing this. I wasn't quite sure if I'm doing the right thing. If the thing that I'm doing doesn't make sense at all, after all, you know.
I think it might make sense to, instead of having one like authoritative chart, having lots of different charts, and then getting feedback from people and seeing what people like more.
Yeah.
If there's a lot more variety, they can get a lot more feedback.
It would be also nice to have the same thing not only for TV or radio channels, but also for genres. So education, science, sport, entertainment, and stuff. I mean, you can put all the broadcasts basically in the same group or tag them with a certain genre. Is that correct English? Genre? I think it's a French word. How do you say it?
Like genre?
Genre, yeah. And we could group them in a similar fashion. What do you think? Does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. To some extent, you just to track like how people are finding things.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if you have interlinks set up, but you can follow like the links people go and see like what sort of path and terms people like your users are using to get to places, and then just whatever ones are most popular, promote or put those at like the top, and then get rid of the other ones.
Yeah. Okay, so this is basically it. I would then just note the remaining problems into the pull request. So you can also give me a so-called code review. Have you ever done this before?
Not really.
So code reviews are awesome. It's one of the the best features of GitHub. A code review works like this. There's one person who's creating a pull request. This one here. You know what a pull request is?
Yes, I do now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And the other person, then you can ask people on GitHub to give you a code review, which you can see here. So they will get a notification, and then you can do a code review. And this is amazing because it is really a good thing that you have some other person to look over your code. Both people will learn a lot from each other. So one person knows, okay, what is the other actually doing, and the other person, the author, will then learn from the improvements, the suggestions in the code review. So you can basically, for example, just comment anything, like whatever. For example, we should. There's one. This one bar should be somewhere. Hang on. There. So there's a bug because the number of broadcasts are obviously not measured in euros, as you can see here. So I would then say, okay, here's a bug. Number of broadcasts is not euro, but plain integer, or is not euro, but just a number. right?
Right.
And you can say start a review. And if you do that, don't forget to submit your review when you're done, because otherwise the other person will not see it. It took me a while until I figured that out. Yeah, I think I would just review my changes here and say request changes. Come on, oh, I have to say something about it. Fix formatting before merge. And I say request change. I cannot request changes on my own pull request. Anyhow, okay, I'm commenting. So usually you can also approve or request changes with a pull with a code review. This is really great. I really suggest to you to use that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the other things we discussed just now is rename station to channel. Okay. No? This would be a refactoring. We don't have this label so far. Anyhow.
Rename TV station. Maybe you should put the full context.
Refactoring. What kind of color do we want for refactoring? What we don't have so far is, I think we have all those colors. Maybe that one. How does that look? Yeah, okay. I think I'm fine with that. It's distinguishable. Actually, those two are. Oh, what is happening? Those two are actually refactorings. Hello. Where's the new label? Refactoring is not found. Why? Oh, come on. I will do that. Usually we should see the refactoring value, refactoring label here. Weird.
We can add that later.
Name has already been taken. Ah, there it is. Yeah. I will add that later. I don't know why this GitHub isn't working right now. Anyhow, so yeah. So we had this bug, and we want to rename. So radio channel also is proper English, right? So I would like to have some kind of name for both entities. Like we have a radio channel and a TV channel. That is proper English, is it?
I think the most common is just saying something radio broadcast.
And the thing that actually distributes it, like the channel or the station, whatever.
It's like a special entity that's broadcasting it. Then normally they just refer to it as that brand. Like, so if it's on like Spotify, it would just be like Spotify, whatever.
Okay.
There might be a lot of overlapping of terms being used like ambiguously, and it's not going to be like so clean taxonomy.
Okay. So I think channel is okay, right?
Yeah, I would just not worry too much about it. Just pick something and go with it. Just so people don't get confused about the change of terminologies.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really struggling with the terminology. So we have another issue here. I don't know if you came across that already, but in the database we call the join model selection. Sometimes it's called vote if you see it on the front end, but I think impression is much better. Yeah.
So another strategy would be to just do an abstraction, try to think things at a higher level, then you don't have to worry about getting the name exactly right.
Yeah.
If you're able to find a good abstraction.
And now, one thing I would suggest to you, so I think those two issues here, just renaming things is already quite okay. I would be happy if you, for example, could look into the code and rename things accordingly. This is, yeah, this is something that needs to be done. I know one new other issue, which is also very important. Come on. I would like to add or turn one to many into many to many relationship between broadcast and channel, right? Why? I thought there are many broadcasts on our current application which are running on multiple channels, especially those that are very popular. And to make this chart even more fair, I think it is reasonable to distribute the amounts or the support equally among the TV or radio channels that this broadcast belongs to. Does that make sense?
Could you say that again?
So I thought there are broadcasts out there like this one, for example, and this one here, diese mit der Maus, and currently they belong to only one channel. But the thing is, they are actually broadcasters on many channels at different times.
Oh.
So wouldn't it be even more fair to credit all those channels instead of just one?
Yeah, I guess so. That kind of changes the entire structure, because right now we have a hierarchy set up.
Mm-hmm.
Where the broadcast is like a sub element of a station.
Yeah. So, for example, here, das Erste has many broadcasts. It is quite, it's performing quite good, but the reason is it has many broadcasts that are actually very popular. They are only connected to this channel in the database, but in fact they are broadcasters on many channels.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Tagesschau, die Sendung mit der Maus, I think Monitor, and so on. So I think it should be fair if we have some kind of support and equally distributed among all the channels that this broadcast is connected to. Does it make sense?
What is the relationship between the channels and the broadcast?
So one broadcast is running on one of the TV or radio channels. So for example, we have a TV show, and this TV show is running on one of those channels.
I mean,
right?
From a producer perspective, like who's producing a broadcast and who produces the channel, or what's the structure?
Yeah, so that's even more complicated. If you want to be very exactly, we should distinguish between the producers and those channels that are broadcasting them. And I would just stick to those channels that are broadcasting them, because people don't know which public corporation was producing the stuff. They just know, okay, I saw that on, for example, das Erste, on this channel, right?
Right.
And I would just stick with that. But in fact, there are broadcasts that are broadcasters on for example, 4 different channels at different times. And I think they should all be credited for that. No?
The other question is, where do the funds actually go? Do they go to the producer or station or broadcast?
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't have any idea. It's absolutely intransparent how the expenditure is actually distributed. This is what we want to change, right? So transparency is one of our goals. On the one hand, we want to show how people want it to be distributed, but of course, it is very important to see how it is actually distributed. This is not transparent at all. It's a big discussion here in Germany. And since it's public money, it's a very sensitive issue. But it's harder to solve this problem with software, because this is more like an investigative approach. Journalists have tried to find out how the money is actually distributed, and they failed because they're dependent on the broadcasters who give them information. And I don't even think that they fall under Freedom of Information Act. So it is very difficult to get information or data from them. But yeah, we also want a transparency, of course. It's not something we can actually fix, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah. So it's too complicated to.
It's a very difficult task, and we have dependencies. Dependencies are bad. We are dependent. If you want to find out how the funds are actually distributed, we have to talk to the broadcasters, and we have to ask them politely to give us the data, and they won't, because they think, well, why should we give you the data? And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we just ask people how they want it to be distributed.
Publish the data they want to publish themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how corporations and things work in Europe. Like in America, there's public listings. There's certain things that any public company has to publish to the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, if it would be a private company, they would not be. They wouldn't be required to.
This is public broadcasting, right?
Yeah. So it's public money, and it should be transparent, right?
Right. I mean, to some extent, not every single detail, but general categories.
For example, it's very hard to get the true data. So it is not public how much do they pay for broadcasting fees for example, the soccer championship, or this is very expensive, by the way, or how much do certain moderators get as a salary. It is said that certain moderators get millions of euros as a salary for their moderation, and it is hard to say that out loud, because nobody should get millions of euros for being on TV on public TV, right?
Right. It's hard to explain the rationale.
Yeah, the rationale. Thank you very much. Sometimes I'm struggling with my English. Anyhow. So I think this is it. If you figure out to run the full stack tests, I would say, is it okay if you would, for example, do some refactorings, like renaming things, or do you think this is too boring?
No. Whatever task is fine.
Okay, and if you're too bored with the renaming things, you can maybe think about turning this one-to-many relationship. So one channel has many broadcasts, to turn that into a many-to-many relationship. Do you know about Rails relationships?
Yeah, I have some knowledge of that. I'm working through this course, and they already went through relationships and stuff, and I'm doing some more work to get better with them.
Yeah. You probably have.
It ends at 1 month, but by the end of the course, it covers all the basic core concepts, and using GitHub and pair programming, the collaboration tools.
Yeah, probably you have seen an entity relationship diagram already. Did you?
Yes, I'm familiar with those.
Yeah. So
Just
here you
like
can see.
database
Here you can
relationships.
see. You can see certain models of our Rails application, and right now, many broadcasts are connected with one station. We want to change that. Broadcasts can also be broadcasted on many channels, right? So just think that this is the channel. It's now called station because it's terrible naming, but yeah, we want to rename that to channel. So one broadcast can also be broadcasted on many channels. So in here you would have a join table. Do you know what a join table is?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be the issue, just to create this join table here. And I will probably, if you do that, you can just do that for the backend. And I will then tackle the front end, because at some point in the front end, you also need select fields, multiple select fields to create more stations or to connect a broadcast with many stations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the form will have to be updated.
Yeah, exactly. That has to be done in the front end. I can take care of that, I would say. So, and one thing, when you do the refactoring, right now we can have a look into the models. There are some models who have no reason to be there. For example, topic. It is up to you. Either delete it entirely. So this was the idea behind that, was just to have some kind of grouping model, like a station or channel, for the genre. Can you pronounce genre again, please?
Genre.
Genre. And since I don't know what's the right vocabulary for that, I call it topic, but genre is...
Word.
Hmm?
That's a pretty good word.
Topic? Or genre?
Well, you use the entire sentence, I can. But topic is.
So the topic of a broadcast could be entertainment. Does that sound correct?
Yeah,
or?
Like a common phrase someone would use.
Oh, well, then you can also just leave it like that. If you think the naming is all right.
It's kind of specific. They might use something more general, like theme. But
yeah,
and that's somewhat common.
Yeah, and there's another model which doesn't have any reason to be there. Format. I think you can just delete that entirely. It is supposed to be something like: is it a show? Is it a movie? Is it a documentary? Is it I don't know. Not the topic, but the way how things are done in the broadcast. Hmm?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of a good word for that right now. But...
Yeah. So either just delete that or give it a better name. I have no idea. What about medium, actually? Does that make sense? So a medium can be either radio, TV, online, or other. So so one broadcast must have a medium. It must be either radio or TV. Does it make sense to use medium as
ambiguous, because TV can be multiple mediums.
Okay.
But
so do you have something right here as a replacement instead of medium?
I have to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that later. So get back to the issues. I would then put them into this milestone here, priority queue. Oh, I think I have to go to issues first. Mark them. This one as well. And say milestone GitHub takes so long to know today. I don't know why. Priority queue. Now it's there. Did you already install this browser plugin ZenHub?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, now they're here, and yeah, this is basically. So is it clear that the task that needs to be done here for those three, the first three issues in this milestone?
To me.
Sure. There you go.
All right, I'll take a look at them and let you know if I have any questions.
Yeah, great. And really, I really appreciate if you improve or give more ideas. So part of software development is not only code, but especially the discussion about it, getting feedback, have some kind of sanity check. Let other people look over your code and give you suggestions. So this is really valuable. Everything you basically say. How is it going for you regarding your learnings? Like, did you can I improve something in order to give you a greater experience regarding learning things in an actual project?
I haven't really done a lot yet, so it's hard to say.
Mm.
I'm trying to find things that are aligned with the progress that I'm doing with the online course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, probably you won't find a lot of alignments because this is like a real project, and it's not a run-of-the-mill Rails application. Usually, if you will work in a company, the real pieces of software usually consist of many parts. And in our case, we are using two major frameworks, and one of those frameworks only happens in the server and one only happens in the browser. And if you just follow a Rails tutorial, you will use only one framework, both for backend and the front end, right? So it is kind of different. And also probably not every Rails application uses, for example, Scenic. I mean, in the last issue, you came across this RubyGem Scenic. And I don't know, do you know actually what a SQL view is, for example?
I do.
Right.
I looked into that.
Great. So probably you understand that this model statistic, which is also questionable if that is a good name, it is just a read-only model. It doesn't actually exist. It is just calculated based on the current impression data in the database, the votes and impressions.
My understanding is it's a stored query. Like
yeah.
A view is just a query which you've stored and applied an alias or alternate name which you refer to it as.
Exactly. So we have this model statistic. In Rails, we look for a table called statistics. And if we, for example, check the schema, so in the schema you can see how does the database look like? What is the schema of the database after I run the last migration? As you can see here, we have some tables in the database. But if you scroll down, probably you come across this view here, right? So this feels like a table, but it's actually a derived table from many other tables, right? So this is just an SQL query that you can store in your favorite database, like in our case, Postgres, and you will get another table, which is based on the data of the broadcasts and the votes or impressions, as you wish. And I think this is it. Oh, and I mean, if we merge the new pull request, it will also be based on the TV and radio channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense that we use this view here because it's just a derived model.
I
That's
have
it.
some opinions about it, but I don't really think it makes that big of a difference with how you decide to do things.
Say it again.
Like, I have some opinions, but if you use a view or not, or you do it this way, I don't think it makes that big of a difference.
Yeah, what is your opinion about it? And I'm very curious about it.
I think you have a project that's open source, and to make it as easy as possible, be able to contribute and set up development environments using like core built-in things makes it easier. And just using like the Rails scopes, you could generate the statistics and cache them.
Yeah.
And just use those cache statistics instead of like on demand using a view.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Probably that would be also possible with ordinary Rails query methods. Yeah. On the other hand, you probably it's not that easy to use pagination. I don't know. I think, well, yeah. So far, it turned out to be very handy to have this view and to treat this data as a table. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Probably it creates some kind of load on people who want to join the project. I mean, it's really valuable to hear that from you. So anything you come across which you think is too much of an overhead, it's valuable feedback, because for me it's not overhead, or it doesn't feel like that, but maybe it feels like that for people who just starting with Rails, right?
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you very much. Great. Okay, so I would say this is it. No?
Yeah,
Almost an hour. What is your?
Yeah, I didn't start timing it, but it was around 11.
Yeah.
My local time.
So your local time is how much? What is your local time right now? 11
a.m. It's 11:52 a.m.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's -4 for UTC.
Yeah. For me, it's like you have to add 6 hours. It's +2. Yeah, it's almost 6 p.m. right here. Well, do you have any questions so far?
Not really. I don't really have like blockers in the traditional sense. It's just having a lot of material and trying to understand all of it.
Well then, let's call it a day. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to write them directly into the issues or text me on Slack, I would say. And yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.